Moorlands Sport Extra, the podcast, brought to you by the Moorlands Radio sports team and in association with Leek Building Society, awarded the UK's Best Building Society 2023.
Hello everybody and welcome to Moorlands Sports Extra, the podcast brought to you by the sports team at Moorlands Radio, and as always, proud to be in association with Leek Building Society. And we have got another busy edition of the Moorlands Sports Extra podcast to bring you for this week as we move into the final month of 2023. It's December, can you believe it? It's that time of the year already. The Christmas decorations are starting to go up in some households. Some people have had them up since middle of November, naming no names. I don't actually really know anyone who's got their decorations up yet, and certainly none of the Moorlands Radio sports team will have their decorations up as we record this podcast. But yeah, it's that time of the year, and we'll be hopefully be making some plans for some Christmas podcasts for you guys this year. But let's get started with this week's podcast, and what can we hear from it? Well, we're going to hear from the new coach at Leek Town FC, Wayne Goodison. He was announced last Sunday, and I caught up with him to find out a bit more about his career, and it's a very extensive career, and to find out what he makes of the team at Leek Town FC. We were at Congleton Town on Tuesday night for the Cheshire Senior Cup as Congleton Town started their defence of that competition. They beat Runcorn Linnets by 2-1, and after the game I caught up with Bears manager Richard Duffy and goalkeeper Dave Parton. We'll hear from the broadcaster on Moorlands Radio, the afternoon show presenter Terry Bossons. He's got a new book out about Port Vale, so we'll hear all about that. And finally, on this week's podcast, we always like to speak to the members of the Moorlands Radio sports team just to get their opinions on what is happening for all of our local clubs. And earlier on in the season, you may have noticed we made a new signing in James Marsh, who does a lot of the presenting for the sports show from the studio. We catch up with him to find out what he's made of the start to the new season for Leek Town. But let's get beginning with the podcast. So as I say, we'll start with Leek Town, and on Sunday they announced former 1874 Northwich manager Wayne Goodison as new coach at the F-Ball Community Stadium. He replaces former Port Vale and Stoke City midfielder Danny Pugh, who left the club to concentrate on his coaching business. And after his announcement, I caught up with Wayne to find out a bit more about his playing career. We're joined by Leek Town's new assistant manager, Wayne Goodison. Wayne, could you just give us a bit of a rundown of your playing career and coaching career, because it's very extensive on both sides of the tale.
Yeah. Well, I started many years ago as an apprentice at Barnsley. Turned professional there, made my debut there. I ran about 40 odd games for them over a 6-year period. Then moved on to Crewe Alexander. 3 really enjoyable years there. 1 promotion. Real good bunch of lads there back in 89 that was. And I spent 2 further years then at Rochdale. Again, really enjoyed that. Moved into non-league circles, Hyde United, Accrington Stanley, and then Buxton for I think about 3 years. I was at Buxton, and then that's really sort of where I stopped playing. I stopped playing with a bit of a knee injury that I'd picked up from when I was younger. That just meant that I just wasn't enjoying playing anymore. So I stopped playing and got into coach. Well, I was already coaching. I'll be honest with you, but I got into sort of coaching non-league then with Trafford initially. With a lad called Mark Molyneux. Again, I had a few good years there, won a couple of trophies and that. And then we both left there. He got offered the Chorley job. Went there again, had quite a nice time. Just missed out the playoff final 1 year. And then kind of dotted around a little bit. Did some time at Salford City. A little bit at Ramsbottom. I went back to Trafford then with Gary Vaughan. Had 4 really good years there. Again, got promotion. Got promotion in the playoffs, I should say, from the Division 1 up to the Prem. Had a couple of years in the Prem with Trafford, and then moved on and found myself at 1874 over the last 7 years. And now I'm at Leek.
Yeah, and we were just chatting before we started. It was very much a surprise to everyone in the Northern Premier League that you left the 1874 Northwich when you did. Do you think it was the right time to make the change?
Yeah, I think it was. I think 7 years is a long time. 7 great years. Had some real good times there. Longest I've ever been at a football club through my whole career. Really enjoyable. Loved working with the people there and with Paul Bowyer. I think we did okay. We won 3 cups, 2 back-to-back back-runs. Got promotion from the counties, albeit we got moved up. But the year that COVID hit, we would have definitely won the league. We were the strongest side in the league. I think we were 8 points clear at the top at the time. And then really, it's just got to a point, I think, for both of us, we'd had some conversations about it in the summer. And this was probably going to be our last season anyway. We'd already said that. And then the way that things were with the club, look, we'd had a slow start. We knew that. It was difficult to recruit this summer. I think for everybody, talking to Josh, he found, I know Leek found the same thing, difficult to recruit. But we were happy enough with what we got. We knew we needed to add 1 or 2 players in. 74 are always going to work with younger players and develop them, and I'm happy with that. That was the kind of thing that really interested me in being there. But we got to the point where we thought, maybe now is the time, because rather than us do that, maybe somebody else coming in gives a club a fresh sort of outlook. They'll want to make some changes, and it gives them plenty of time to do that and bed in properly. So it's quite a different club in the way it's run. So it needs somebody that's going to buy into that fan-owned mentality and understand the people there and how they work. And I'm sure that, listen, they'll be fine. There's some good players already there. Add in 1 or 2 others and they'll be fine. It's tough at the moment, I think they've been unlucky in the last couple of games, but they'll be fine.
Certainly so. And as you say, joins Leek Town now. It come a bit out of the blue. Josh Braille, the manager, mentioned it to us in our post-match interview with him on Saturday that Danny Pugh was going and you were coming in. Yeah. Did it take you by surprise that you were going to be back in football quite quickly?
It did, yeah. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I wasn't obviously wasn't scarred or fried by the experience of being at 74, and we left on really, really good terms. Made sure that everything was handed over as well as we could. So I was just like Paul. We both sort of said, well, we'll just happy to take a break and maybe go and watch some games and stuff like that. So that was my intention. But then, really, the conversation with Josh. Well, when we played a few weeks back, we sort of got on quite well before the game. Had a good chat, had a bit of a chat afterwards. We kept in touch after that game. When I left, he obviously got in touch and wished me well and said he'd like to continue the dialogue, and I was happy enough with that. And then, he just sort of came back and said that there was something cropping up that meant that he'd need to bring somebody in, and would I be interested in having a conversation about it? And I'll say from both sides, from myself and Josh, we spent a lot of time having the conversation to make sure it was. What I said to him was, I think as a young manager, and he's, keen to do well, and I see that in him. I think it was important that he got it right, and he was happy enough. We sort of bringing me in, if you like, and it was clear then what he wanted me to do, and we had probably a 2-hour conversation on the telephone one day, and then we met up in Manchester, same sort of thing, 2 hours in Starbucks and chatting this and that, and it was actually the day after the Runcorn game, so we had a good chat about things, and a few days later, another one, and I just said, I'm happy enough with what you're looking for me to do, and it'd be nice for me to have a different outlook, work with some different players, work in a different way. I'll definitely learn plenty from Josh, I'm sure, and plenty from the players. So it's something that I thought, it'll be good for me. And I think my main thing as well was I didn't want it to not be right for Leek and for Josh, and hopefully that's how it'll pan out.
What can you bring to this management team? Because you're very experienced, as you've proven with your TV right at the start of the interview with your coach, and of course, as you mentioned, Josh is a young up-and-coming manager, but then you've got Pete Ward, who's got more experience than I think anyone else in the whole of football, near enough.
Yeah. I think from talking to Josh, again, I would guess he wants my experience of being in the dugout, recently, and obviously managing a team and all that entails at this level and in that league. We spoke about the coaching side of things, and we share some ideas on that. I think we've also got some slightly different ideas, which will be good for us both. So I think, the way the conversation's gone and the way that he's looking for me to work with him is just to support him, really, and what I've said to him, whatever he needs from me. I've got no ego. I don't need to have a title of, and actually I don't think my title is assistant manager. I think it's head coach or something. That's not important to me. What's important to me is that, the people that I work with get the most out of what they need from me. And that's kind of always been my outlook. Players, coaches, people I've worked with, managers, directors, all that kind of stuff, because ultimately it's definitely not about the coach. It's a little bit about the manager, but it's always about the players. And I think if you can make sure that the environment's right for them, and talking to Josh and looking at him with what he does with the team, I think he definitely does that. So that's another thing that made me interested in getting involved, really.
Absolutely. And finally, you've seen him a couple of times, I think, since you left 1874 North, which you were there on Saturday against Witton, and obviously played him. How do you assess this Leek Town side, and what can it achieve?
I think, like every year, what I said to Josh was that every time you play against Leek, and over the last 3 years at 74, I think we won one there, and I think we drew a game, but you always know that it's going to be difficult if you allow Leek to, impose their game and dominate possession. And what I see this year in the team from playing against them, and then the games that I've seen, is that I think the same thing applies. I think a little bit more of a cutting edge, if I'm honest, at the moment, from what I've seen. They're really good going forward, really good in possession on Saturday. I was really impressed Saturday. I think the one thing that maybe is not something you wouldn't expect, not something you kind of not think is right, is that probably conceded too many goals. Again, Saturday concede a penalty, and all right, it's a penalty, but it's a goal that you don't really want to concede. Concede a last minute one at Clitheroe, and you can say, well, it doesn't make a difference, but mindset it does. And I think if you can be a little bit more defensively secure out of possession, I think the team's good. It's going to cause problems for anybody in this division going forward, without a doubt.
Certainly so. And as I said, finally, but it's one more. You worked with Fenton Green and Liam Buckley at 1874 North. How do you think they've done since making the move over?
Both really, really good players. Really good players. Liam came into us last year in his first sort of year at playing men's football at that level, and was he was our player of the year. So that tells you everything about how well he did. So it was no real surprise when clubs were interested in him in the summer. We wanted to keep him, but he moved on, and I think Leeks was probably the right club for him to go to at the time. And the conversation I had with Fenton when Josh sort of let me know that they were interested, then is that as much as I wanted players to stay with the club I was at that particular time, I'm also mindful of the fact that they're the lads who are playing. It's their careers. If something crops up that I genuinely think is a better move for them and is going to help them to develop on again, then I'll say that. And that's what I said to Fenton. I think the way that Leek play, it suits both of those. But I also think the way that both Liam and Fenton play and how they are as individuals suits Leek. Sometimes lads make moves and they go to the wrong clubs. They don't always listen to your advice on that. And I can think of plenty that have done that and then end up coming back. But I think in both their cases that the matchup, if you like, was right. As I say, they both suit the way that Leek play and Leek suit the way that they play. So yeah, I think Fenton, especially just coming in, I watched him on Saturday and looked very comfortable on the ball like he always does. Looked very confident, taking it in tight areas. So that's something that he's very, very good at and gives you good control of the football. So I think that's something that he knows as well. He's got some areas he needs to develop, and Josh has identified those as well, and Fenton knows it. So, but yeah, I think he'll just grow and get better and better, Fenton.
And that is Wayne Goodison in conversation with himself following his appointment to the club, and we wish Wayne all the very best at Leek Town. I'm sure he would be a perfect fit for the club. He's someone, as you might have gathered from the interview, I've known for a few years, and I was delighted to see him join the coaching staff at the F-Ball Community Stadium. And now we're going to go from the Staffordshire Moorlands to Cheshire, where Congleton Town were in action on Tuesday night. They played Runcorn Linnets in the Cheshire Senior Cup, starting their defence of the competition that they won last year, and they beat Runcorn Linnets by 2-1. 2 first half goals from Max McCarthy put them ahead. 1 goal in the second half from Runcorn Linnets. Oliver Malloy pulled the Linnets a goal back, but the Bears held on to get through to the next round. And after the match, I caught up with Richard Duffy, the manager for the Bears, and Dave Parton to find out what they made of the game. And we'll start by hearing from Richard Duffy. James, welcome back to the Cleric Stadium. I'm joined by the Congleton Town manager, as you say, Richard Duffy. Richard, I think tonight would have been, before kick-off, a good test for yourself, see where you were in terms of relation to the Northern Premier League West, with Runcorn Linnets being there. You've come away with a 2-1 victory in that first half. You certainly blew them away, didn't you?
Yeah, we started really well, really quick. We knew we needed to. We seen the bad result or poor result on Saturday. Sorry, and we knew they'd come. They'd have a reaction and come and have a good go tonight. And we started really well, and obviously went 2-0 up, makes it a lot easier, and then allowed us to sort of sit in and frustrate.
You made a very late change. You started Brian Barton went on the team sheet. Was Dan Needham, did Needham pick up an injury in the warm-up?
No, I think the team sheet was a bit squiff, should we say. No, he was always starting. We changed a little bit tonight just because of who we were playing and give them the respect they needed. The 2 strikers they got of full of class and full of goals. So I just felt if we went with a back 4, I think we might have got overrun a little bit against the front 2. So we sort of went with a 3 or a 5. And it worked well, and we thought our front 2 would their full-backs push on, and we thought our front 2 against their back 2 centre halves would cause them problems, and that was the case first half.
You certainly contained them, and going forward as well, you were impressive. Were you impressed yourself and the management team with how you were playing against them?
Yeah, I thought in spells we did well. In other spells we were sloppy and a bit disjointed, because it's the first time this group has played that sort of formation. We haven't worked in it. We haven't had time to. It was something me and Griff come up with the last couple of days. Sorry. Obviously we had no game Saturday, so we another thing was I wanted to get everyone on the pitch tonight. We haven't played for 10 days, and we got another big game on Saturday. So we wanted to share the minutes out, and we made four subs on at half time. We would have made 5, but we made 4. And that was planned before the game. So if we could have stayed as a 3 or as a 5 in the second half, then we would have. But the boys who were coming on, it just didn't work out with the personnel. So we had to change it to 4-3-3, and even then we were a threat on the break.
Was those changes made with in mind to Lincoln United in the FA Vase on Saturday?
Yeah, they were pre-planned. I don't really like doing it, but it was fair to get. I wanted everyone on the edge, ready to go for Saturday, and giving people 5-10 minutes at the end when they've done that. So we've tried to share the minutes out, especially amongst the front lads, because we're inundated with quality and that sort of end of the pitch, and they've all done themselves justice today.
They pulled one back 5 minutes into second half, Oliver Malloy with the goal, but after that they didn't really threaten your lads, and that's because your defence held firm.
Yeah, we really, they like to put crosses in the box, and that was one thing that we wanted to do first half was fill the box up with our 3 centre defenders, and that seemed to work. And obviously losing one of them second half, going to a 4, I thought it might be a little bit of a struggle. And obviously first 5 minutes of the second half they've scored a header, but fair play to the lads. They've blocked up so many passing lanes for them, frustrated them, and I thought we were good for the win.
A couple of walking wounded players at the end, Ethan Hartson, Darren Chadwick limping. Any news on injuries for them, or is it to be assessed? Yeah,
be assessed. I'm hoping they just knocks more than anything. Chad has had a bit of a dead leg, so was going to come off anyway. So and Ethan took a little bit of a nasty over the ball. yeah, just hopefully that's just an impact injury.
Something about Congleton Town and cup competitions at the minute, isn't it? And we saw it last season, and you're doing it again this season.
Yeah, I just said to him, I'm not bothered what competition it is. You know, whatever team we put out is a planned team to try and win a game, and you know, whether there's planned subs coming on, you know, everyone seems to know what they're doing, and I'd say whatever competition it is, we want to win. You know, we might look like we've left our two wingers out who've been probably our most consistent players this season. What you're doing, but there's a method behind the madness, shall I say, of getting players on the pitch and keeping people hungry, and these are the competitions you need to do it in.
Yeah, and keeping the players happy as well, because you don't want them thinking they're not going to get in game times. Yeah,
and that's the impossible task. Whatever you say and whatever you do to the players who are not playing, it's not good enough, and that's the life of a manager. Unfortunately, you know, you've got to try and keep people happy, but they ain't going to be happy if they're not playing. So that's the one we got to juggle, and that's the hard part about it. But it is football as well, and you know, at the end of the day, I'm sure when we all go home and we've won, then we'll all be happy.
Lincoln United away on Saturday. How do you prepare for such a long journey across country?
Yeah, going to be a real tough game. You know, see where they are in the league and the results they picked up, especially at home, is, you know, it's going to be a massive ask for us. You know, going over there, long journey. But we'll prepare and we'll go and have a good go.
FA Vase again, and we all saw what you did last season. How much would it be for the town of Congleton to go that one stage further and get to Wembley?
Yeah, it's a long way away. Yeah. You know, I was saying that last year, and you tick them off one by one, and you know, next thing you know, you last 16, and then it gets a little bit exciting. So until you get to that sort of stage, and then it's you know, it's a long way away, but you know, you got to dare the dream, as they say.
Rich, enjoy the journey on Saturday, and thank you for your time as always.
Cheers, Rich.
So that's the thoughts on
Moorlands Radio Sport, in association with Leek Building Society.
So that's Congleton Town manager Richard Duffy giving us his thoughts on Tuesday night's victory, and of course looking ahead to Saturday's big game in the Isuzu FA Vase, which I'll tell you all about later on in the podcast. And we'll go from the manager to his goalkeeper. Dave Parton was between the sticks for the Bears on Tuesday, and after the match I caught up with Parton to find out what he has made of the game. Joined by the Congleton Town goalkeeper Dave Parton. Dave, thank you for your time. Impressive 2-1 victory against a team from a higher division tonight in the Cheshire Senior Cup. What's your assessment of tonight's showing?
Yeah, I thought we were quite comfortable for most of the game. There was a little bit of pressure at the end, but we more than held our own today, and the full credit to the lads. I mean, obviously the two early goals has sort of killed it. And in the end, we probably could have got a couple more. So, but no, we've done really well tonight, and like I say, I never felt like they were going to ever sort of come at us leaps and bounds. So it's a good victory, and we move on again. Yeah,
and especially your displaying goal, you're coming out catching everything, because we always see you commanding that defence.
I like to. I want to have a look back at the goal. I was caught in a bit of no man's land between me and Dicko, but it's what I like to do. I like to get involved as much as I can, sometimes to my detriment. But overall I'm happy with myself.
Can imagine so. And this club and cup competitions over the last season or two, it's been fantastic here at Congleton, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I can't. It won't be many games that we've lost in the cup over the last probably 2 or 3 seasons actually, because we had a decent run in the FA Vase when Ryan Austin was here as well. And it just seems to sort of happen for us, especially at home. It's a right fortress, as you know now, and it's a really difficult place to come. So luckily we've got some home draws, and we've been able to sort of capitalise on that.
So it's on the support as well. For step 5 of non-league football, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it was freezing tonight, wasn't it? I was cold playing, so again, the support, I don't know how many were here, was it 200-300?
I didn't hear,
but it was again, you can't fault them.
No.
And then on Saturday, Lincoln, which is probably 2.5 hours away from here, we're going to get a bus load again, which is absolutely amazing. And sort of from where we've come from when I first came, sort of 4 seasons ago to now, it's amazing, and long may it continue.
How much does it lift the players, seeing the attendance and the people packing it here? Considering when you go in the Midlands Football League, you go some places and there's not even 100.
Yeah, so there's obviously been some away games where we've had more than the home team, and yeah, of course it does. And let's say again, especially here, it lifts us massively when we're sort of going down the hill second half. It's the they can sort of suck it in sort of time. So it's amazing. And like I say, long may it continue.
Lincoln United, as you say, on Saturday, FA Vase. How much are you looking forward to going down there?
No, I'm not really. I'd much prefer to be at home, but it's been a few years since I last played down there. They're going to be a tough team to beat. They're doing well in their league. Their home is sort of similar to ours in the sense that they win most they get their games. So it's going to be a tough one. But listen, we sort of had a couple of away games last season in the Vase where we've sort of battled through. So at some point you're going to have to play some good teams. So we're looking forward to it. And hopefully we can get the result.
Probably best two teams at Step 5 meeting on Saturday in the Vase, certainly in the north of the country.
Yeah, I don't know what there's a lot of teams. There's a big shout, Rich, but I don't know. There's a lot of teams, and it's probably a bigger draw than what the third round should be, really. But hey, it's one of them. We're going to have to beat some good teams eventually, we start Saturday.
How much are the players wanting to do one better than last season, because you got very close to Wembley, a penalty shootout away from walking out at Wembley?
Yeah, cheers for bringing that up, mate.
Sorry.
Listen, it's an amazing tournament for this sort of level. Got all those idiots potentially playing at Wembley, which is amazing. So it's a great tournament. So of course we want to do well, and if we can go one better than last year, then that's what dreams are made of, isn't it?
And that's Congleton Town goalkeeper Dave Parton giving his thoughts on that game on Tuesday night.
This is the Moorlands Sport Extra podcast in association with Leek Building Society, rated the UK's best building society 2023, serving the community and its members for 160 years. The Classic Hits Chart.
We're compiling a very special listener chart, and we need your help. We're looking for your favourite 2 pop songs from the last 70 years. It can be any 2 songs from any of the last 7 decades. To tell us yours, go to our website, moorlandsradio.co.uk. Then listen in to our very special listener chart, where we'll count down your favourite songs on Boxing Day from 10 a.m.
All the best tunes and some big memories. This is Tony Mullins with the Classic Hits Chart.
Tony's playing your favorite hits.
This is the Moorlands Sport Extra podcast in association with Leek Building Society, rated the UK's best building society 2023, serving the community and its members for 160 years.
Welcome back to the Moorlands Sports Extra podcast, brought to you by the sports team here at Moorlands Radio, and of course in association with Leek Building Society. And we're now going to nip up into the Football League, and we're going to talk to another member of the staff here at Moorlands Radio who presents the afternoon show. That's Terry Bossons, and he is a massive Port Vale fan, and Terry has got a book out called Vale Not Fail, which chronicles his time supporting the Valiants, and he tells us why he decided to write the book. We're joined by our afternoon presenter at Moorlands Radio, Terry Bossons, and Terry, as anyone will know, is a lifelong Port Vale fan. He wears his heart on his sleeve when it comes to the Vale, and he's got a new book out called Vale Not Fail. Terry, thank you for your time as you prepare for your show this afternoon, and if you could just tell us a bit about your new tome that you've published.
Thank you very much, Rich. Well, so I've been writing for a few years, and I've always wanted to write something, and I got the chance to do some dialects, books about the Staffordshire dialect, and it was nice to go out and talk to people. I love talking to people about the past, and way before I was born, I've always been interested in that. And the same with Vale. I've been going since the 80s, but I always like to talk to the older generation to see what they took out of the games going when they were younger. And that's always fascinating. So I've written a book about going to Port Vale, and the football, to me, it just about covers half of the experience, the actual game. The rest is meeting up with people, family members, friends you've only made from going to Vale. And just that escapism. It's a couple of hours where you can forget about the bills, forget about work, forget about problems in life and have a good shout at, from the terraces. So, yeah, it's always fascinating, Rich. And I've always, I've had that passion for a club in a lower league that have sometimes overachieved and sometimes really underachieved. And I don't think it goes away. And I took my son last night to the Derby match, and he's 9, and he's been going for a couple of seasons home and away with me. And I said to him last night, what makes you Port Vale? And he says, it's just on my doorstep, Dad. It's just down the road. And I think that's important to follow local football. And I think he's right. That's what happened to me. I got on the bus when I was about 13 with a friend from Biddulph, and we went watch a Vale game because it was the closest game to us. That was pretty much it. And we lost that very first game. But I was addicted to the atmosphere and the community side of loads of people just joining together on a Saturday to shout at these guys and birds. It just really did fascinate me from a very young age.
So you've been following them since the 80s, so you've seen massive changes not only on the pitch but off the pitch as well. I believe the stadium's being completely redeveloped, and the current ownership, the Shanahans, are trying to develop the ground even further. So what changes has there been?
So my first experience of Vale, on the car park where the Hammerland is, that used to be a market on a Friday. And my mum used to take me to the market to do a bit of shopping. And obviously I was bored, I was a kid, didn't really like going clothes shopping, this, that, and the other. But we used to park next to the ground, so I could peer through the gaps in the old terraces and see the pitch. And I'd never seen anything like it. And I always sort of wanted to go. And then when I first started going, the terraces, it was standing. There was not many roofs on any of the terraces. They come in later. And then obviously when a bit more money came into the club in the 90s, when we started doing well, the ground got a bit better. But now the facilities are really top notch. I think Carol sort of understands that it isn't just about what's going on the playing field. I know a lot of fans say it is, but she's trying to, make a bigger impact, Port Vale, as a community club as well as a football club. And I think if you look at, the little changes that are coming, like the scoreboard and, the pitch being changed, and these are things that a lot of fans probably forget about. That cost money. And I know you want to spend on a new player, but sometimes, the bigger scheme, the grander scheme of things is to get in the Championship one day. And I know people joke about that, but I think, we've got the support. It might take a little bit of time. Nothing happens overnight in football. Well, not for most teams anyway. I think sometimes they don't get the run of the green. But I think, the vision is there for something bigger. And, hopefully she gets more backing. I think, you've seen the things in the paper about Robbie Williams sort of having his eye on the game and saying, maybe in a few years I could invest in the club. And he's seen the Wrexham model with Ryan McElhenney and Deadpool, and he's seen that and he's thought, oh, okay, that might be something I want to do. And other, famous Vale fans and people from Staffordshire might follow suit. You've had it with Stoke, with Denise Coates now, and obviously Dad, who started out as a local businessman, built up an empire in food, I think it was originally, before the betting thing came along. So you never know. And I just think that the fans need to sort of remember that, it isn't just about 90 minutes of football.
And as you say, following them since the 80s, you must have some interesting stories in that book, and there's probably some even more interesting stories that unfortunately couldn't be published due to libel laws. Is there any tidbits that you can entice people with to they want to read more into?
So what it is I picked so many different games that are sort of, they stand out to me, of course, from when I first went, these games that I remember better than the big games for whatever reason. But there's some big games that stand out. The Tottenham game in the late 80s in the FA Cup, playing Arsenal, knocking Derby out of the FA Cup when they were, a big team. The Everton home and away games, Liverpool, getting a point at Anfield, not getting a point, getting a draw at Anfield throughout the years. But I've picked different ones. Like I picked the Huddersfield game away in 1988, because in that game we need to win to stay up, and we did, and it was weird because that sent Stoke and Man City down. We're only talking, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
We sent Man City down a division, and I think what I'm trying to do with the book is sort of remember things that were pre-internet. First of all, that was hard.
Yeah.
So obviously there might be a little bit of artistic license there, remembering that. I've even put, I can't remember the name of this or whatever, so hopefully people join in. But yeah, I've tried to include things like that. So I sort of tell my story, because everyone knows what went on in the matches. I tell my story of going to the game, what happened at the game, and yeah, like you say, there's some things I've had to sort of gloss over, because if I put them in there, people could get in trouble. That's basically it.
That'd be the last thing you'd want. Where can people find this book? Where can they go and buy it?
So if you're local to Burslem, it is available in the Port Vale shop. If not, I did have a website for my books. It is on Waterstone's website, but it's probably the best place to just go if you want to get it quickly. As I've put a few copies on eBay, so if you search Vale Not Fail on there, you get it posted out quicker. I think that's probably the best way if you're outside the area, or you can't get to Burslem. I think that's probably the best way of getting it.
And how much will it cost for people to pick up this tome?
It's $7.99, and it's over 100 pages. Loads of fan photographs were put in there, because I went up my loft to dig out photographs. So many, and I look really strange on them because it's so long ago. The different haircuts and things like that. And people sent me, email me loads of photographs of their sort of time. So I put some of those in there as well to sort of, for other people to say, oh, remember him, because there's crowd shots and player pictures and all sorts that I've taken over the years. And as you know, Rich, like I say, you watch a lot of football, yeah?
Yeah.
And I bet there's games you go to where there's people you speak to who you only know from those grounds.
Yeah. There is, yeah.
And you become friendly with them, and you've got sort of you've both got a common ground to talk about, and it's having a bit of a whinge, or the referee should have done this, or that player's dirty. I think if you're a lonely person, which some people might be out there listening to the podcast, go to a football game, go to your local game, go down to Leek if you're in Leek, or Newcastle, or Hamley Town, or wherever, and you'll find this community that. It'll get you hooked. It really will. It just will.
And that is true, what you say about getting down to go and watch and be part of the community. And as you say, I speak to people like I was at Congleton Town on Tuesday night, and there's people I see there who I only know from football. I don't even know their name. I just know that he sits next to the press table at Congleton, and we have a laugh and a joke about the time he sent me laptop crashing to the ground mid-game as Congleton were about to score.
Yeah. It's like when I take my sons, obviously, they know I'm a DJ and I do radio. And people come to me and say, oh, hey, Terry, how do you think we can get on tonight? And we'll have a chat. And then they'll walk away. And both of my sons have said to me in the past, how do you know them from DJ? I'm like, I know them just from coming here. And what, you just talk to people here? I was like, yeah. It's a great thing that there's so many people over the years I've spoke to on a regular basis. Every couple of weeks when it's a home game, we'll have a quick chin wag, and it's just from going there. And going back to the Carroll situation, I go down to the Golden Valiants on a Thursday sometimes to do some talks, and have a chat to the Golden Valiants. And besides, the helping people who were struggling financially for food and other things, this Golden Valiants thing is a way of getting people together, and most of them are Port Vale fans, over 60, and they have a game of bingo, a sing-song, they have competitions, and it's rammed every week, every Thursday. I think they should do more sessions, Sadie, at the Golden Valiants, because it is that busy. And these people, again, they've been following the Vale for a lot longer than me, still go, and they've probably seen a lot more lows than I have, but still will be there on a cold Tuesday night. It's just an amazing thing.
It is. And before I let you go, Terry, I've got to ask you about your opinions on the current situation at Port Vale. And it's been an interesting 18 months, hasn't it? We've had promotion at Wembley, for the Vale. They're on this amazing Carabao Cup run, obviously still in the FA Cup, going to Stevenage at the weekend. What else have we had? We had a great start to last season, and in parts this season. I think when I came down to cover the Burton game for Moorlands Radio, I think a victory would have put them top of Sky Bet League One.
Yeah, so both last season, this season, we've been starting the season well, and then all of a sudden the wheels fall off come October, and then it just seems we haven't got strikers at that time of year. We didn't in the season we went up. We brought a loan signing in, and it just seems like I don't know whether the ACLs must go in October because we lose so many players that time of year. If we just go back to the promotion season, I didn't think we'd get promoted that season. I thought we'll have a good season. And, it was a rub of the green with the Swindon game. We went to their place and came away, luckily, with a goal there to, have something to play at Vale Park. And then we beat Swindon. And when we went to Wembley, I thought, this could probably happen now. And it did. And then fast forward, a few months into the next season, we started well and brought a couple of good players in. And then, again, just tumbled down the table. And then this season, we were unbeaten for a few games and it was all going well. And then James Wilson's injured. I think injuries have played a big, massive part of this season. But I still think we should have brought in a notable striker in the summer. I think Ellis Harrison was going at the end of last season. I think that was already decided. I don't know that for fact, but I think knowing he was going and he was somebody who could hold the ball up and put it in the net, we needed somebody like that. Andy Crosby's not really used Josh Thomas enough for me. I know he's injured now. He got injured playing for the Wales under-21s. But, we brought in Ryan Loft as a bit of a panic buy, I think. I think we just had to buy somebody in the window. And I just think strikers nowadays, if you see the movement in the lower divisions, are probably, sort of a big expense for a club. You never. I hate the undisclosed fees. I think everything should be disclosed, but it won't be. And you don't know how much players have gone in and out for. But I think the wages and when you're signing from another club, I think it might be just out of Vale's reach. But then on the other side, we've brought in players like Ojo, Iacovetti, who actually signed for us, Ben Garrity, who are absolutely great for this division. And the two loanies you got from Sheffield United and Tottenham, Alfie Devine and Oblast, are absolutely great. But we just do lack that killer touch. And I think Andy Crosby, he's playing nice football in the middle, and he's very set in his ways with this, and he wants to play a style of ticky-tacky football, starting from the back. But I think unless you're Man City, that's not going to get you goals every week, is it? And I think the balls are in the box. Last night, I know this has been joked a few times, but my son said to me, Connor Ripley went up for a header at the end because we were losing 1-0, and he had a header on target, and that was the only header on target he had in the whole match, was from the goalkeeper, and he had more shots on target than the strikers. It's
and it'd been something if he'd scored as well, Connor Ripley.
That's two strikes he's had on target this season, which is the same as Ryan Loft. I'm not making Ryan Loft a scapegoat. Yeah. I just don't think he's good enough to get us out of the mire that we're in at the moment. And results can come. We might have a great Christmas period where we pick up some points, but we're staring at relegation right now. And the cup games are sort of a deflection. Obviously, it'd be great if we got to the semi-final of the Carabao Cup. I can't see us getting past Stevenage at the weekend. They'd be on a good run in the FA Cup, and then we've drawn Bolton away in the EFL Trophy. So, we could be talking just after Christmas, and we'd be out of all the cups, unfortunately. And then, we've got to do something with the league to keep the fans happy, because at the end of the day, they were the ones who were buying the season tickets next year. They were the ones who were buying the shirts. So, if we have another season like that last season, I think it's going to keep a lot of people away. And you won't get these new kids coming and getting excited about the Vale. And, it's been difficult to do that. Like I say, my son must have the sort of mettle that I've got, where we go and just have a laugh, and then fair enough, we must have that. And going back to the boot for one more point, I mentioned Stoke quite a lot on the boot because I worked with Stoke fans during the 90s, and a lot of my friends are Stoke fans. I DJ on a Saturday, and loads of Stoke guys come down after the game, and we have a right laugh about it. And Stoke aren't doing so great at the moment, but when they win, they give me loads of grief. If they lose, they're like, don't go in hard on me. And I do like that banter. I think because we have got two clubs that are close together, and probably for only recent history, we've sort of played each other in a competitive nature for a regular period throughout the 90s and early 2000s. I think that sort of created a bit more rivalry when it was probably a bit more friendly before. But yeah, it can get a bit tasty when we do lock horns, and I don't look forward to it happening, to be honest. When people say we won't get in the Championship, I'm like thinking, as much as the gate receipts will be up, would I like to see Stoke City versus Port Vale? I don't think I would at the moment.
It would be interesting. My only memory of Stoke versus Port Vale was the EFL trophy time. It was the Stoke under 21. Yeah. So I would like to see, but that's because obviously I'm actually from out of the area originally, as most people listening to this podcast will know, and they could probably tell by my accent. So I would like to see it, but I think for the general consensus of Vale and Stoke fans, would they agree with you then? It sometimes is probably nicer to avoid them.
Yeah. Well, I think like last season, I can remember at the beginning of last season when Stoke didn't start off so well, and they were saying, my friends, we hope we don't draw Vale because they could beat us now, and that'd be a massive wound for us. We're already struggling, and if Vale came to us and beat us, and then this season the Stoke fans were like, we want to play Vale because obviously when the cut draw was on, we started as bad run. So yeah, I don't know, and you got to look at Middlesbrough now. Stoke beat them in the league. They've been a bit up and down, but they'll come to our place. There'll be big numbers there. Can we win? Can we nick something? You never know. That's the cup, isn't it? You never know.
Absolutely.
But that would be fantastic for the area. If we got all the way to Wembley, I don't know how I'd manage. I really don't.
No, I don't think Mike Stubbs will either. I mean, it was fantastic. It was fantastic when they won promotion at Wembley. I was watching it on Sky Sports at my girlfriend's with her family, and it was so great just to see the local football club doing so well. But Terry, thank you for your time. We're going to let you go because I know you've got your show coming up in about 40 minutes on Moorlands Radio, so I don't want to delay you for that.
No problem at all, Rich. It's been great chatting, and again, just people who like the lower league football, keep going, keep supporting your club, buy the shirt, have a laugh. You know what I mean? It is a great escapism for everyone.
So that's Terry Bossons talking about his new book that he's recently published called Vale Not Fail. And if you want to get hold of a copy, it's in the club shop at Port Vale. It's on Waterstones and it's on eBay as well if you would like a copy. And finally, for this week's podcast, we're going to catch up with another member of the Moorlands Radio team, and that is our sports presenter, James Marsh. And James joined us just after the start of the new season to give us a hand with presenting, and what a fantastic job he does. So I wanted to catch up with him to see what he has made of Leek Town's start to the season, and of course we touch on the club that he supports, which is Luton Town. Over the course of this podcast, we've spoken to many of in fact all of our sports team here at Moorlands Radio, but we made a new addition to the Moorlands Radio sports team back in September now, and that was James Marsh. And James does the job of directing proceedings from the studio when we're out on location, and it's about time that we brought James onto the podcast. So James, thank you for joining us, and if you could just give us a bit of an introduction to yourself, who you support, what sports you're into, and of course the work you do for Moorlands Radio.
Yeah, hi Rich. Yeah, well, it's lovely to be on the pod. It's a great job you all do with it, I should say. So I'm arrived on a free transfer from my lounge. I hadn't really done it before. So yeah, basically I'm in the studio on Tuesday evenings and Saturday afternoons when required. Sometimes the guys do the whole show as an outside broadcast, but often it's not possible. So yeah, so just play a few tunes and try and bring all the guys in and doing their reports and keep people up to date with the scores, try and remember what league all our local sides are in and how they're doing. Not always successfully, but yeah, but I'm as people could probably tell, I'm not exactly local. I'm from down south near Aylesbury and Luton and my team, and I've been following them. Oh God, I don't even want to think about it, but I think about 1988 I started going. I was on a very sad terrace in 1992 in Notts County when Notts County took us down with them, so that meant we didn't make it into the Premier League in its first season, and that was probably the start of the club's slide. But anyway, I try not to mention the Hatters too much, although I do try and sneak in the odd comment from time to time. But anyway, so that's me. But I really love all sports. I love cricket. I've done a little bit of cricket writing from time to time. But yeah, cricket, rugby, football, tennis, anything really. But yeah, no, I'm just really delighted to be involved with the team.
And you also do a bit for Moorlands Gold as well. So it's not just the sports team that you work on with the station.
Well, I did. I probably I really love doing the show on Moorlands Gold, and our station manager Gary Bossons was very kind and generous with his time because I was an absolute newbie, and so just in terms of the technical side, and then of course Tony Wally, our sports editor, has been equally generous as I think he has been to you as well, Rich, in terms of like training and support and what have you. But I've just started a new teaching job in Congleton though, so it's cut back on my time a bit. So I've had to sadly, Rich, give up the Moorlands Gold morning show, which I'm sure has sent shockwaves through the Moorlands Gold listenership. But no, so anyway, but I'm hoping I can maybe do some pre-records or whatever. But it was great. It was a great sort of grounding in radio, because I really just hadn't had any experience at all. So.
And you mentioned right at the start about obviously you play the tunes and you do the get the reporters on air and what have you, but how hard is it having to juggle all that? Because I guess you've got so many places to be spinning. You've got obviously to make sure the commentary's still on air, make sure that the reporters are coming in on there, that the station are getting the adverts out, which is vitally important for our income, and of course playing the music.
Yeah, well, there is a bit of plate juggling going on, I suppose. But I mean, Tony again always gives us a sort of running order and some show notes, so that's obviously quite helpful. And not to reveal too much of our behind the scenes magic, Rich, but I think we're all quite good and empathetic in how we react to each other during the show, and the communication is good on our WhatsApp group and whatever. But it's, I mean, the most traumatic bit is when we're coming to the end of the show and just getting up to the top of the hour if there's some interviews going on, because as you know, sometimes it can take a while for managers to emerge, especially if their team has lost, and then I'm trying to sort of fit everything in, the scores and the full times and the interviews and what have you, and then just a couple of times I've had to fill in a couple of minutes inadvertently of dead air, But Ed, I think it's generally been okay, and I think we're lucky. You could see when there was the light switch on in Leek, like how many people came down to see it. So I think that's obviously not just the sports team, but you can see there is a nice level of support in the community for the station. So it's good. Yeah,
there is. So I know I was at the Leek light switch on myself, and I can't believe I didn't see it. I saw Tony, I saw Gary, I saw Dave, I saw Scott, who does a lot of our producing, but I didn't get to see you. And I think I said to my girlfriend afterwards, I've seen everyone apart from James. I think we needed to have organised a proper reunion, but it must be good having the community behind the radio station.
No, it's nice. No, I did pop down earlier at lunchtime, but then I was, well, this is, is anyone with kids or who works in the school will know this is prime, man flu season, and I was nursing a Lemsip at the switch on, unfortunately, but it did look fantastic, and yeah, I mean I think it is important for the community and for the clubs themselves. I think it's a bit of a paradox. We obviously want people to tune in and listen to us, but we'd absolutely love it if through our coverage we can help to actually get bums on seats at local clubs. So I think, we were talking about Newcastle the other night. I think they had quite a disappointing attendance. So it's obviously it can't hurt our coverage and just getting people interested. And I mean, we focus on football, but I think just in terms of rugby, one of the other sports I like, I mean, I'm always trying to flag up the junior days they have at Leek Rugby Club on Sunday morning, because I just think it's brilliant that you've got a club that's catering to all ages. And yeah, so that's really what it's, I've sport, not to get too, misty-eyed about it, but I mean, sport has been just incredibly important to my life, and I just want as many people as possible to get enjoyment from it, whether watching, listening, or participating. So anyway, I suppose that's what we're aiming for, really. But
certainly so. And I think Tony said in the past, because obviously we get a lot of people listening to the show if they're Leek fans. If Leek are away and they can't make the journey over, they will make sure they put Moorlands Radio on to keep up with the games. But what I think Tony has said in the past is get yourself down to the F-Ball Community Stadium or to any of our local clubs if you don't live in Leek, because this podcast is listened right across the North Staffordshire area. But you can take earbuds, put your earbuds on, you can put the show on, and you can get best of both worlds.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, that was always with the cricket, with Bumble, with David Lloyd. He loved to chat with spectators while they were listening to the Sky commentary, actually in the ground. But yeah, no, it's no. I mean, my mum just the other day, I can't remember who. I think it was someone at her. Oh, well, I shouldn't reveal too much here, but I'll say a fitness group my mum goes to, and she came back and she said, "Oh, there was a guy there, James, and he was saying how much he loved Moorlands radio coverage of Leek. He was saying it was brilliant, and that was exactly it. He was a Leek fan. He couldn't get to so many away games, and he was I mean he was genuinely." Pleased that we had the coverage. So yeah, no, it's good, and obviously with Leek being very successful this season, I think, as they have been for some years. Obviously, I've not been up here, but I think it's quite exciting. It's an exciting club, a very exciting young manager, and I mean, they're a relatively young team, and yeah, so I mean, I think if anyone's at a loss for something to do on a Saturday, they should, or get down there, get down to the F-Ball.
Absolutely, and you'll hear the commentary each week from being sat in the studio, and a couple of times you've been down to present the show from the F-Ball Community Stadium. What have you made of Leek Town and this season? As you've said, they've been successful, but more importantly, how will Leek Town do this season?
Well, I think I'm always pretty impressed with them. I mean, I've seen them have. I did one of the games I saw was during the mini blip when I saw them lose 4-3 at home to Avro, which made it sound like a bit of a, ding dong thriller, but it wasn't particularly, because Avro were very impressive. I think they're still on a fine run, actually. I think they won again at the weekend. And so, they weren't that good. And then obviously there was the 5-0 to Runcorn, away at Runcorn, which but I don't think it was ever sort of panic stations, because I mean, although I haven't seen them that much, I'm obviously watching the highlights, listening to the commentary, and it did seem a bit implausible that group of players would suddenly just overnight turn into very bad players. And it was, and as expected, they went up to Clitheroe and they got an excellent result there. So I'm always incredibly impressed with it. I mean, there's so many players which have obviously been through sort of, we can say maybe, bigger clubs, Port Vale, Stoke, been through the youth systems there. And I'm always very impressed by the standard, I have to say. I mean, I'm a big I forget what's he called. Hang on, you might have to edit this, Fitch. Keenan, the left back.
Louis Keenan.
What's his name? Louis Keenan. Sorry, dear me. I'm a classic teacher, terrible with names. I'm a massive fan of his, and I think he just brings such calmness to the team. So I'm always interested to see how he fits into the system, because I always think Leek look a bit better when he's got a bit more time on the ball when they're in possession, rather than pushing up as a wing back. But there's some exciting players knocking about. Rob Stevenson, Cricket Smith, and they're a nice team to watch. I mean, I wouldn't say they play with outlandish flair, but they are they're pretty stylish and well groomed and professional outfit, I would say. What are your thoughts? I've not answered your question there, Rich. I've avoided it. But I mean, I would be incredibly surprised if they don't end in the playoffs. And I mean, I know then anything can happen, as it did for them last season. But I would be amazed if they weren't in the playoffs or higher.
You're putting me on the spot. Then I said at the start of the season on the podcast that when we were doing the show on a Tuesday night from the studio, that I was tipping Leek to be champions. It's such a competitive league, is the Northern Premier League West. You're looking at it, everyone's beating everyone, and I think I said it on social media, and it was actually after Runcorn won 5-0 against Leek, and I was kind of trying to deflect it away from Leek a little bit, but I said I think every team in this league will take at least one hammering this season. So if Leek's had their hammering, that's good. Not good that they've had it, but it's been done. They can move on. But I think top two as a minimum for Leek. That would be what they're expecting. They finished second last season behind Macclesfield. We all know the Macclesfield FC story. That's another entirely conversation. But to finish behind second to them, and that was just as competitive league last season. You got Workington, who went up, Clitheroe, Runcorn Linnets, who else was in that league? Witton Albion just missed out. And now you're adding to it Nantwich. I think we're going to see Nantwich come strong once they've completed their FA Trophy run. Although I'd love Nantwich to stay in the FA Trophy and get as far as they can, because they were semi-finalists in the FA Trophy a few seasons ago, and I had the pleasure of being the club's press officer back then. So I think we'll see. We'll see them come on strong in the league. They had a good win on Saturday at City. Liverpool winning 3-2 after being 1-0 down. Stalybridge Celtic have come into this league and they seem to be kicking on after relegation. And as you mentioned, Aberystwyth, I think I saw Aberystwyth on last Tuesday against Newcastle, and while it wasn't the best game of football, they looked useful.
No.
They've got some good players. Babito Gomez, Jake Cottrell is a player I've rated, mainly because he played for Chorley, and I've done you what you said you don't want to do, James, and mention your team. I've had to mention Chorley there in the podcast.
Right.
That's this week's mention. They've got a good young manager, Avro, winner Alex Frost. So it's a very competitive league. So if Leek can finish top two, and for all of our other local clubs, if Kisgrove can be knocking on the door of the playoffs, maybe get into there. If Hanley and Newcastle Town can finish comfortably in the top 10, maybe even knocking on the door of the playoffs, because why not? Then I think that will be a very successful season for all of our local clubs.
Yeah, definitely. No, well, there's definitely a buzz about. I know. I think I relegated Congleton to mid-table mistakenly on air at the weekend, but no,
don't worry, I've done that as well.
But yeah, no, I mean they're obviously going very well indeed. But yeah, I mean we obviously follow some teams closer than others. But if people tune in, we'll always try and keep them up to date with Alsager, Buxton, obviously the Dabbers, as you said, Nantwich, and yeah. So we do strive to whoever you support locally, we do try to keep you updated as you do on the podcast, Rich.
Yeah.
So, on the webpage, of course. So
we certainly do, and that's what we all strive to achieve at Moorlands Radio. But before I let you go, James, I've got to ask you, and this is probably the most pressing question of the podcast. You're a Luton Town fan.
Is it about your burgers?
No, it's about Luton Town, actually.
Oh, right, sorry.
Luton Town.
Right, go on then, sorry.
Luton Town, you're a big Luton Town fan. Can they stay in the Premier League? That is the question all of our listeners will be dying to know.
Well, of course, yeah. I'm sure people talk of little else in the Cock Inn in Leek at the moment. But it's, well, I think we can. I mean, we're possibly fortunate. I mean, I know people have a slight sort of love-hate stroke patronising attitude towards our stadium, Kenilworth Road, which you famously, you have to walk in through people's gardens to the away end and what have you. But that, when we've got this temporary stand-up as well, but somehow it's created a bit of a, well, I don't want to say a fortress, but it has created I shall say cauldron, and you could genuinely see it in the Liverpool game. You could see it in the Palace game. I don't think those sides were particularly intimidated, but the fervour that it creates, I mean, it can't hurt. And I would just say that in terms of players, Ross Barkley is, who I'm sure obviously people know from his time at Everton and Chelsea, he's an absolute game changer for us, because we've got a lot of very good Championship players, I would say, and famously Mpanzu, he came up with this from the conference, but we probably didn't have any midfielders that could just hold the ball, pick a pass, just delay a bit, and that's definitely what we were missing. And just in the game on Saturday against Palace, Barkley was different level of gravy, I would say. It was just outstanding. So I think we can. I mean, we're going to struggle to score goals, but I think with the home advantage we'll have, just from the sort of novelty almost of teams playing at Kenilworth Road, plus obviously Everton's penalty points is quite handy for us. But yeah, we will see. But I promise listeners that's the last I'll mention of Luton. possibly.
Apart from when they stay up in the Premier League. But there we go. James is tipping Luton to stay up in the Premier League. You've heard it first here on Moorlands Sport Extra. Absolutely. But James, thank you for your time, and we'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, great pleasure, Rich. And yeah, I'm not saying it. I love listening to your commentary and all the guys' commentary. So it's a great pleasure to be working with you all. So cheers, all the best.
So that's James Marsh, our presenter on Moorlands Radio Sports, giving us his opinions on all things local football and, of course, on his beloved Luton Town. And I'm sure we all hope Luton can remain in the Premier League and continue that fairy tale rise that they've enjoyed this season. But that's all we've got time for on this week's edition of Moorlands Sports Extra in association with Leek Building Society. We're back on Saturday for the Saturday Sports Show in association with Leek Building Society. We're on air from 2 p.m. We'll have live commentary on the Northern Premier League West game between Leek Town and Hensford Town. Other games in the Northern Premier League West involving our local non-league sides. Kidsgrove Athletic go to Bootle. Hanley Town host City of Liverpool. As I said, Leek Town play Hensford. Newcastle Town are at home to league leaders Prescott Cables, and Nantwich Town go to Mosley. In the Isuzu FA Vase third round, Congleton Town are in action. They go to Lincoln United, hoping to continue their FA Vase story over the last couple of seasons. National League North Buxton go to Chorley this weekend. Well, in the Midlands Football League, we've got one fixture. Stonehall Delanians are visiting Shifnal Town. And finally, in the North West Counties Football League First Division South, we've got three fixtures involving our local sides. Alsager go to Abbey Hay up in Manchester. Abbey Hutton United are at home to Stockport Georgians. And probably two of the big hitters in the division, Sandbach United and Brockton, meet at Sandbach. So if you're free this weekend, get yourself to one of them fixtures. You're going to get lots of entertainment watching local football, local non-league football, some great players, some great entertainment, certainly, and you will enjoy yourself. And if you can't get to any of them fixtures, why not put Moorlands Radio on from 2 p.m, the Moorlands Radio Sports Show, proud to be, as always, in association with Leek Building Society. We are on air, as always, from 2 p.m, and you can find us on 103.7 FM, 97.3 FM, DAB, on the app and online. But as always, thank you for listening.
Moorlands Sport Extra, the podcast, brought to you by the Moorlands Radio Sports Team and in association with Leek Building Society, awarded the UK's Best Building Society 2023.